Christos Tuton from the Cypriot Federation of UK. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So my first question is, Turkey continues hydrocarbon exploration activities, now takes declared, so open for the second time in Cyprus. Greece and Cyprus says Turkey is violating maritime jurisdictions. What exactly is the situation in here?
So there's been tensions in the East Mediterranean for a long time, but recently Turkey has reacted negatively towards the cooperation of most of the Eastern Mediterranean countries, including Greece, Cyprus, Israel, the Palestinian people, Jordan, Egypt. And Turkey feels like those countries are all cooperating on the natural gas explorations that are taking place in the Eastern Mediterranean. And so Turkey has decided that it wants part of the profits from the natural gas. So it's decided unilaterally that it's going to attempt to drill for natural resources in the exclusive economic zones of other countries, particularly Cyprus, Greece, and Egypt. And for Cyprus, this represents the 7th such drilling attempt by Turkey in a year. And I think it's important to note that these drilling attempts by Turkey are accompanied by warships, the Turkish Navy, and also warplanes too. Jets are flying over the Eastern Mediterranean. So it's a very tense situation.
How can it be interpreted that the Turkish state violated Greece's continental shelf despite all warnings? And what kind of sovereign approach is behind seeing the drilling activities here as a right to Turkey?
Well, I think so Turkey has been increasingly projecting its doctrine of the blue homeland, which means that it should have much greater rights to the Eastern Mediterranean than it currently does, and that it would do under the basic principles of international law of the sea. But the recent discussion, anyone would think that Greece has just placed its islands where they are already, because Turkey seems to be suddenly taking issues to the Greek islands and the fact that they form a sovereign part of the nation of Greece. So, and this is also accentuated by the fact that Turkey doesn't recognize the Republic of Cyprus as an independent and sovereign state. So Turkey's view of the Eastern Mediterranean would be alien to most people looking at a map. They claim parts of it that clearly belong to other countries. They claim that some of the islands in the Eastern Mediterranean don't have a right to have their own sovereign exclusive economic zones or kind of territorial seas. It's a real mess. And I think that most people looking at the situation would realize that Turkey's claims are disproportionate and kind of just completely contrary to international law.
The already troubled foreign policy of the Turkish state reached its peak in the Eastern Mediterranean. Greece, Cyprus, Egypt defined the Turkish state's presence here as illegal and reach joint agreements. What caused the Turkish state to ignore international law and behave so daring in expansionism?
I think anyone who knows the situation in the Eastern Mediterranean and the wider region knows that Turkey's behavior now is not out of character. It's not unusual. This is how Turkey has consistently behaved to disrupt and spoil relations with its neighbors, but also to unilaterally exert its dominant influence on the region that it believes it has a right to do. And that's done by gunboat diplomacy, by sending warships. It's done by invasions, both in the marine zones of other countries, but also on land, as we've seen in northern Syria as well, and Cyprus back in 1974. So it's not out of character for Turkey to be doing this, but recent situation, I think, has been enabled by the global balance of power. I think we've seen in recent years, Turkey has moved closer towards Russia It has bought Russian defense missiles, the S-400s. It has partnered with terrible organizations in the Middle East that have caused much disruption and terrorism. It's facilitated illegal migrant flows that have allowed terrorists to travel to and from the Middle East through Turkey. So it's not isolated. It's just part of a wider kind of absence of leadership in the region. And I think that the UK and the United States of America have both historically been important players in the region, but now they've seemed to have taken a backseat role and allowed Turkey to dominate things. And so one of the things that we as a UK community would like to see is the British government playing a much more active role, because historically they did that. Historically, they in the 20th century, nothing could happen in the Eastern Mediterranean without Britain having its influence and opinion felt. But now that's gone, and Turkey seems to have moved in and being the dominant force in the region. And that's not good because, as I've outlined, Turkey operates outside of international law. So it's a very dangerous situation. France is the only country that's really shown any leadership on maintaining international law in the Eastern Mediterranean. France has made many moves to try and secure the region, to try and create more peace, and also ensure that Turkey can't just put a warship into another country's territory and say, this is mine now.
We are witnessing almost daily tensions in Eastern Mediterranean now. Is a war likely to happen? What does this crisis result in, do you think?
Nobody wants a war. And I don't think that it's in the interests of any of the countries in the region to have a war. But having said that, Turkey acts, and it's Turkey's leadership uses language as if it was already at war. It makes threats on a daily basis. It declares that it's going to do certain things that it would only do during a war. So I think, and I think that the other countries in the region want this resolved diplomatically through negotiations, and Turkey has said that too. But where Greece and Cyprus say that negotiations should take place once Turkey stops its illegal actions, Turkey insists that negotiations should take place whilst it has warships on other countries' exclusive economic zones. So it's like going into somebody's house, stealing something, standing in the living room and saying, now we're going to negotiate which of these things I'm going to give back to you. It's not how negotiations work. Negotiations should work from a place of good faith and with good intentions to resolve the issue legally, rather than using Turkey's new provocations to create a new situation in the region that it will then benefit from. Negotiations are the only way to resolve fairly and legally the issue that is currently going on. And of course, it must be based entirely on international law, the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, something that Turkey doesn't ratify or recognize.
How do you comment on the attitude, the aggression of the Turkish state and Erdogan towards both Greek and Turkish Cypriots? Can you see similarities on these aggression against Kurds as well?
Definitely. And I think that whilst Turkey maintains an occupation of Cyprus, I think that there's an equal kind of occupation going on in northern Syria, which is a predominantly Kurdish area and region, and we've seen Turkey playing a hugely negative role there. And then I think that to the people themselves, the Turkish government and President Erdogan wants to project one view of how a citizen is meant to be of Turkey, and that doesn't fit certainly doesn't fit for the Greek Cypriots, doesn't fit for Turkish Cypriots, and in fact, in the occupied area of Cyprus, the Turkish government's policy has been for decades now to eradicate the culture of the Turkish Cypriots by settling the occupied area of Cyprus with mainland Turks, by changing the so now, for example, the Turkish Cypriots are a minority in the occupied part of Cyprus, which, I mean, over generations, they've left and fled, and their culture's been eradicated and forced assimilation upon them by the Turkish authorities. So it's a real existential issue for them. And the same can be said of the Kurdish people too. The Kurdish rightful demands for a homeland and even just kind of equal rights in the countries that they live in now has been impeded and frustrated by the government for so many years and decades, and it's just, I think there's common struggles, there's similar tactics being employed against various different groups, and that's why it's so important, I think, for different communities to work together, come together and share their experiences at the hands of President Erdogan, who is spoiling things for so many people in the region.
Christos Tuton from the Cypriot Federation of UK, thanks for joining us. Thanks for your comments today.
Thank you, Erem. Take care.